Hello everyone and welcome to a really wonderful game that was played in the ProAm Open. It was sent to me by David Lada, a true appreciator of great games, so I am thankful that he sent me this one. It's a game between a Peruvian international master, or rather women grandmaster Deysi Cori, and a Spanish grandmaster David Larino Nieto, and such a brutal game. The Black King, the mileage the Black King does in this game is just incredible. You guys will enjoy it. Let's dive straight into it and see what happened here, because from the thumbnail you know that something weird is happening in this one. So Deysi has the white pieces and she opens with pawn g3. She goes for the king's fianchetto opening, and we have pawn to d5, a very principled way of dealing with the opening with pawn to g3. You want to grab hold of the center, pawn to g2, and now pawn to e5. Sorry about that. Grabbing hold of the full center, c4, now challenging the center, and now pawn to d4. Advancing the pawn, we have e3, challenging the d4 pawn, knight to c6, and now pawn to a3. There are some games where e captures on d4 was played, also knight to e2 is a known move, but pawn to a3 is a new move, so already as of move 5 we have a completely new game. So of course we have pawn to a5, stopping b4, we have d3, and now d captures on e3. We have bishop captures on e3 and knight to g7. Knight to c3, just nicely continuing development, and now knight to f5, putting pressure on the bishop on e3, and just knight to d5. So how do you continue? Do you capture the bishop? Do you go for development? Where here, interestingly, David goes for knight to d4. And now, how do you react to this? It's a very annoying knight. The knight covers the c2 square, the e2 square, the f3 square, the b3 square. So you do not want it there, but you don't want to play something like bishop captures on d4. Then knight captures, the other knight takes its place, and you don't have a c pawn or an e pawn to get rid of it. So instead, after this knight to d4 move, we have bishop to g5, attacking the black queen. And it seems like f6 is impossible because there's always that queen to h5, a very nasty idea. The problem is here it's the absolute best move, and it's the absolute best reply for white to capture on f6, and that's exactly what happens here. Bishop captures on f6, g captures, and now queen to h5. There is no g pawn to prevent the check, so king to d7, the knight and queen are covering e7 and f7, so the king has to start running. And now look at this, king to d7. We have queen to f7 check, and now king to c6. It seems like you could block with something like bishop to e7, but this just runs into a beautiful mate in 2. Knight captures on f6 check, king to d6, and now queen to d5 will be checkmate. So you can't block with the knight or with the bishop for that matter. It's the exact same checkmate. So after queen to f7 check, we have king to c6, and now the problem is how do you finish this? It just seems like it shouldn't be possible to have your king on c6 with a queen on f7, with the knight on d5, and with all sorts of nasty discoveries threatening to checkmate that king. The problem is, as soon as the knight moves and you deliver this check, you have king to b6, and once king to b6 lands, you have king to a7, and then the king hides, and white is down material for the moment. Even if you try something like knight captures on c7 with check, now the bishop delivers check, the queen defends the knight, but king b6. And even if you capture the rook with check, there's king to a7, now attacking the knight, and now how do you continue this? There's just no good way of doing it. If you go rook to c1, because you always have to keep in mind that knight to c2 check will win the rook on a1. And this is now, even though the black king is running for his life, it's a game of material. Rook to c1, for example, king captures on a8, and now black is just up material. It's a nice position. You could play something like c5, for example, king b8, unpinning from the b pawn, pawn to c6, let's say captures, and now continuing knight to f3, and okay, it's a game, but with you know, some reasonably good play, black will be able to win this. So instead, after king to c6, how do you continue the attack? Well, Deysi finds c5, and it's a very nice idea. It covers the b6 square, and now once the knight moves, the king will not have king to b6. And if you try something like bishop captures on c5, well, then knight captures on c7 is a bit different, because now you can't really go to b6. If b6, knight captures on a8 with check, king to a7, and rook 8 to c1 now comes with tempo, so you will not be down too much material. So that's not really the way to go. So instead, after this c5 move, we have a knight to c2 with check. This is the absolute best move by David. King to d2, and now knight captures on a1. We have knight captures on c7 with check. Now the b6 square is covered. So king captures on c5. The king goes deeper into white's position. And now how do you keep the king not going to b6 and a7? Is it possible? Well, queen to c4 check is one option, but it's hard to continue because after king to b6, there's no way to finish the attack. There's just not much you can do. And even if you go king to d6, it's still not great. You can play knight captures on a8. Okay, you grab the rook. Now bishop h6 with check. And after king to e1, bishop to e6, and you're just up too much material. Again, there's no attack happening here. The queen is hanging, the knight is hanging, and there is no way to continue. So after king captures on c5, knight to e2 is played. Now the other rook can join the attack, but now we have king to b6, the move white was unable to stop. Rook to c1, defending the knight on c7, and now knight to d6, attacking the white queen, and now queen all the way back to a2. Another interesting idea was just queen to d5. This is very nice as it does threaten queen to c5 with checkmate. The problem is black is more than happy to give up the queen. Queen captures on c7, rook captures, king captures, and black is just up way too much material. So instead, queen to a2 was played. Now, okay, if you give up the queen, at least in the end of the line, the queen will be able to take the knight on a1, so maybe you can still fight. But now bishop to h6 with check, pawn to f4, and now bishop to g4. Pretty much developing everything, and white is out of ideas here. Again, you could go after the a8 rook, but that just doesn't work in any of the lines that we've shown. King to a7, and now what do you play here? If queen captures on a1 or something, there's e captures on f4. Now this is being threatened. This is being threatened. The king is still in the middle of the board. There's no way for white to actually attack. So instead, queen back to d5. Now deciding to threaten this queen to c5 checkmate, but now just queen captures on c7, giving up the queen. Rook captures on c7, king captures on c7, and now knight to c3. So it's a queen, knight, and bishop versus two rooks, two bishops, and two knights. E captures on f4, now threatening a discovery here. Knight to b5 with check, with the idea of eliminating the defender of the b7 pawn. So knight captures on b5. Interestingly, this is the only move that gains advantage for black. So queen captures on b7 with check, king to d6, now queen to b6 check, king to e7, and now bishop captures on a8, grabbing that rook. F captures on g3, opening up a discovery, and now king to e1. And now look at this, a very, very unpleasant pawn covers the f2 square, bishop covers e2 square, the other bishop covers the d2 square, knight to c2 with check. And also the d1 square is covered by the light square bishop, so you have to play king to f1. So king to f1, and now even rook captures on a8, giving up the rook, queen to b7 with check, bishop to d7 now, and queen captures on a8 with check. And now comes bishop to h3 with check, and it was in this position on move 31 that Deysi Cori resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. We've reached the position from the thumbnail, and this is where she resigned. This is covered by the bishop, this is covered by the pawn, this is covered by the knight, so your only options here are king g1 and king to e2. If you go king to e2, it's just another a mating sequence, knight b to d4 check, king to d1, and now bishop to g4 check. The only move is queen to f3, and once you block bishop captures, it will be checkmate. And another thing you can do after bishop to h3 with check is go to g1, but this is not much better. Just bishop to e3 with check, king to h1, and g2 check, and now there are no more moves. Only move is to give up the queen, but once you do that, captures, captures, and captures. Now black is just up two knights and the bishop, and David, of course, will have no problem converting this. So yeah, after bishop to h3, Deysi resigned, and what a spectacular game, a wonderful attacking sequence. And it's just now in the era of modern chess, especially with these spectacular young players like Gukesh, Arjun, and you know, the all the Uzbekistan players. It's remarkable what kind of well, disgusting engine lines they can play and just get away with everything. And this is well, this also reminded me of that. I mean, it's so incredible that the king can survive on c6. I mean, this is this looks like a diagram. You know, if someone were to give it to you and you know, like white to mate in 6 or white to mate in 3, but no, actually white has to play you know, absolutely precise moves to maybe hope to save this game, because black is just better here. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely played by both of them. David was able to take this one, but what a game it was. So really hope you enjoyed it. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Danush, and I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Pedrinho, and I would like to thank Lord of Chess, Anderson Vera, and Torkel Stenquist for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions, such as this one. This one came from David Lada, who really knows how to spot a nice one. So hopefully we receive more in the future, and you know, whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.